tonight's video, I'm taking it back to my ASMR roots and I'm gonna do a soft-spoken video because it's a book haul and it's nighttime and I have my tea and it's just the vibe. So, grounding myself from the last video that I filmed, and we're gonna do this book haul, soft-spoken, maybe with a little bit of tapping on the books. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy this video. I probably have like just over 20 books, and I'm going to read excerpts from maybe half of them. And I've already marked the pages of where I'm going to read. Just relax, get cozy, and enjoy the vibes. So we're going to start with the first book, which is called Your Secret Self, Illuminating the Mysteries of the 12th House. This is a guide to using astrology and your dreams for personal growth. Includes dream interpretation methods and guidelines, and this is by Tracy Marks. So there is a lovely little bookstore, like an hour's drive from the city that I live in. And I had surgery in August, and so I had to go for my pre-op appointment to the hospital. And I did a little day date because I knew I was going to be out of commission for a month or two after recovering. So I took myself out for lunch. I went to my favorite little bookstore. I bought a box of like 30 books. And now I have all of these amazing books. I had so much stuff on astrology, which I'm starting to learn more and more about. Holy shit, though, it is like a whole science. People are like, oh, I don't believe in astrology. Well, the astrology is doing its thing regardless of your belief in it. So I think it's really cool to tap into these energies that are occurring all around us. And so yeah, so I got a lot of books that have to do with astrology. You can kind of see what I'm into and what I'm reading. So we have this lovely book, and all of the books were in amazing condition. I don't know where this guy gets these books and how he can sell them for so cheap, but I'm not complaining. So I'm going to read you a little excerpt here. So I'm going to read you this excerpt about Neptune, which is Pisces in the 12th house, because I have Pisces in the 12th house. So it makes sense to read what applies to me. Okay, so it says, your 12th house Neptune indicates that you possess an innate sensitivity which contributes to your responsiveness to people in need. Deeply compassionate, you are drawn to the vulnerability of others, which you seek to nurture and protect. Oh, that is so me. Yet because your Neptune is buried within your 12th house, you are able to wall off your sensitivity from your personal life and to keep yourself from undue emotional involvement. Your Neptune is deceptive because although your empathy and caring are real, you do not easily attach it to specific individuals, and you are most comfortable responding to the needs of people with whom you are not personally entangled. I can actually see how that is true. Because you are so protective of your vulnerability, you may hesitate to let down your walls and surrender to the feelings of love and need, which emerge in close relationships. Perhaps you did not feel safe expressing your sensitivity in your family. You learned to barricade your true self behind a strong defense system so that it would not be unduly hurt and corrupted by the outer world. In solitude, often overwhelmed by the energies you have absorbed from others, you may feel directionless and internally disorganized. You need time to yourself to sort out your inner confusion and to attune yourself to dimensions of consciousness which bring you clarity and inner peace. So true. And that part about me being sensitive as a child, so true. Just who I am. Oh, it says taking showers or baths and being near the water, as well as listening to music or expressing your creativity, help you to regain contact with yourself. Often you escape into daydreams or fantasies which comfort you. So yeah, that's me. So excited to dive into that. My tea is espresso chai, and it's so good. Now that I think of it, it probably has caffeine in it. And it's 10 p.m. Okay, the second book is called The Wheel of Rebirth, an autobiography of many lifetimes by H.K. Challoner. So this is one person's story of all of the adventures they've been on in their past lives, which I'm very interested in reading about. It is an autobiographical account of the adventures, the successes, the failures of the author through her many past lives. Amazing. Yeah, I love stuff like this. Past lives, reincarnation. It's all up my alley. It's got this on the back. But I'm not going to read you an excerpt of every book because this video would be so long. The next book that I have is called Working with Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. Emotional intelligence, something that is very, very valuable in this world. Many people don't have. But it's actually something that you can cultivate inside yourself. Emotional intelligence is basically when emotions overtake you, just kind of bringing yourself to a conscious place within that emotion so that it doesn't come out and wreak havoc in your reality, like anger, guilt, judgment, just all of those, shame, condemnation, all of those emotions that you don't want to come out and like manifest with, but they come up inside us to be cleared. So when you build and cultivate emotional intelligence within yourself, those lower vibrations, those lower emotions actually can't really affect you, and therein lies your superpower. Very cool. The next book is called Breathe Deep, Laugh Loudly by Judith Kravitz, The Joy of Transformational Breathing. Breathing is something that obviously I do, but I don't really do conscious breathing. It's like, same with meditation. I don't meditate that much. Sometimes I sit in front of the mirror at night and I say affirmations to myself in the mirror, but like I don't sit and meditate. I did not find my spiritual way by doing that. It never resonated with me. And anyone that says you have to do something to be spiritual, like you have to do it a certain way, like you have to meditate to be spiritual, no, you don't. You need to find what works for you, and that's it. I am interested to see what she talks about and how I can bring more conscious breathing practices into my life. And everything is just in such good condition, like brand new books. We have this little book called Ramtha, and I have another book by this, I don't know if it's an Ascended Master, an enlightened being, but it is called Voyage to the New World with Douglas James Marr, an adventure into unlimitedness. And I really resonate with the first book that I found of this being. So when I saw this, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get it. And I'll read you the little excerpt that I marked. It says, Ramtha says, you have nothing to fear. You have lived 13,342 and 1/2 lifetimes. You have been every race of peoples existing from this universe to the 23rd, to the 17th, to the 100th universe. You have brothers in your Pleiades, a most divine constellation. You are a divine creature. Your knowingness was absolute when you were a babe. I will manifest all of your fears to you, to the brink of death, and you will come back to this place and live for the reason you're supposed to be here, to live. Your destiny and everyone else's in this wondrous audience is to do nothing unless they want to do it. Their destiny is to live. The reason they have come back here is not for karma or for judgment. It is to live, and from that premise, create whatever they wish to create. Okay. Next book is this one. It is called Eye of the Centaur, A Visionary Guide into Past Lives by Barbara Hand Clow. More about past lives. More stuff I'm interested in. Not much else to say about it because I haven't read it yet. But this looks like a pretty easy read. 200 pages. Yeah, 240 pages. Next book is this one. I will read you a little excerpt. It is called Planets in Aspect, Understanding Your Inner Dynamics by Robert Pelletier? Sorry. Okay. So, from this book, I'm going to read you, it's just a big book about astrology. So, I'm going to read you, I did some digging into my birth chart. Yeah. So I did some digging into my birth chart, and I saw that I have a note that says my Mars is sextile Jupiter, and then this book talks about the sextiles and what that means. So Mars sextile Jupiter indicates that you can effectively use your considerable resources of mind and body to gain your objectives. You tend to establish ambitious and demanding goals, but you are prepared to take any steps necessary to see that your ideas are constructively implemented. Even if they're just mental steps, they're still steps. Early in life, you exploited your intellectual abilities whenever you could. Perhaps you applied your creative skills to devise games or indoor activities in which you could test your ability to meet challenging competition. You know how to assert yourself under pressure and have developed your talent for effective communication through dramatic delivery and clever use of words. If you follow me on Instagram, you will know that is so true. I'll link my Instagram here for you. Just as a little note, the O in soul is a 0. Starlit_soul. The O is a 0. Okay. Never one to withdraw from a debate, you always document what you say with convincing evidence. You are quick to defend anyone who cannot defend himself because he lacks information or is not trained in the art of persuasive argument. It says you will probably learn to lean to the more intellectual pursuits in which you shine, such as teaching, writing, drama, or the communications media. Any of these would be an excellent field in which to distinguish yourself and gain recognition. Still, recognition is not really as important to you as having the opportunity to fully utilize your talents. You project yourself amazingly well and gain many admirers for your effusiveness. I don't know what that word means. I'm going to have to Google it after. Young people are especially impressed with you and may even regard you as an example to aspire to. I am always friends with younger people, always. You can be blunt in saying what is on your mind, and it is rare that you will alter the truth as you know it. This is exactly true. Wow. So that's a pretty big, a bit of a bigger read. That's gonna take me some time. But I got time. It's BB Rexa. So yeah. Oh, this sounds cool. Listen to this book. Hopefully that's a good sound on video. Then it doesn't sound like nails on a chalkboard. The next book is this one. And it is called The Astrology of Transcendence by Philip Sedgwick. It's got this cool cosmic cover. The Astrology of Transcendence, Leaps and Bounds in Geocosmic Study. Geocosmic. I don't think I've ever heard that word before. So, yeah. Nice big book. I like big books and I cannot lie. Sorry. It's supposed to be ASMR vibes. I also got this book called The Inner Male, Overcoming Roadblocks to Intimacy by Herb Goldberg, PhD. It's just about overcoming roadblocks to intimacy. I haven't read it yet. I haven't read any of these books yet. But I always think it's good to get other perspectives. And when I was reading through this in the store, the paragraph that I read was all about like how a woman would perceive a situation, and then it talked about the exact same situation from the man's perspective. And I was like, holy crap, I didn't even think that like they could perceive things differently than us. And it was just like opened up a door in my mind. So I've been really interested in stuff like this, aligning with my inner masculine, learning more about that energy that we all have. Talking about that loving, fatherly, nurturing, protective energy that masculine energy brings, that we all have. That is the true role of the masculine energy. To be like the protector, not the controller. So I'm going to read you a little excerpt from this book. Here, and it's Guidelines for Women Who Love Too Much. You are not loving a man when you are continually angered by who he is when he is with you. You accommodate him and are unable to define and maintain your own preferences and boundaries around him. You are afraid of him. You constantly seek reassurance of his love. Your love causes you to be unhappy and feel like a victim of his insensitivity or lack of intimacy capacity. You expect that your love will change him into the loving person that you feel he isn't. You see him as the cause of the relationship problem without seeing yourself as an equal ingredient in the overall problem. You see him as damaged and incapable of love and in need of psychiatric help, while you see yourself as the opposite. You see your role as helping him overcome his problems. You are in pain because of his resistances and problems in getting close. So I thought that was a cool little list, and I totally resonated with it. Little book. Talking a lot is making my throat super dry. Okay, the next book is this one. It is called Planets in Solar Return, a yearly guide for transformation and growth by Mary Shea. I don't know much about, this was $27 originally. I paid like $4 for it. But anyway, I don't know anything about solar returns, so I don't even know what that is. But again, it was something where I opened it and I read it, and I thought that sounds really interesting, and I want to learn about it one day when I have the time. So I got the book. Next book is this. It is called The Astrologers Handbook by Francis Sakoian and Louis Acker. There's a sticker on it for $20, but I definitely did not pay $20 for this. The Astrology of Human Relationships So I'm going to read you a little bitty blurb. So I'm going to read you a blurb about covering basic astrology, what Venus in Taurus means, because my Venus is in Taurus. Venus in the sign Taurus gives constant, lasting affections. It's true. Very affectionate person. Emotional security and stability in love are important for these natives. They are loyal and steadfast, although they can be possessive and jealous if their emotional security is threatened. Yeah, that's true. Their sense of touch is highly developed, and they enjoy physical contact with their loved ones. I've been told I have magic hands by more than one person. But they are sensual in a passive way, seeking to attract rather than pursue the love object. Just gonna sit here and sip my tea. Venus in Taurus gives a love of comfort, luxury, beautiful surroundings, good food, and opulence in general. Because the moon, which rules the domestic scene, is exalted in Taurus, they seek to make their homes beautiful and artistic. Well, as you can see, my very vibrant, beautiful, artistic bedroom, it's not a lie. Personal beauty is important to them, and they seek to make themselves as attractive and youthful as possible. Where's the lie? That's also true. I also say that self-love makes you immortal. The thing I don't resonate with this one is that it says that we like material things. I'm not big on material items. Like, I like my things, but I don't need fancy things. You know, I'm not a designer label kind of girl. Natives of Venus and Taurus feel a close kinship with the earth and gain pleasure and solace from flowers, trees, and other plants. As Taurus rolls the throat and larynx, did I say that right? And Venus confers grace and beauty, many people with Venus and Taurus have rich, melodious voices. Ooh! The next book is called The Biology of Belief, Unleashing the Power of Consciousness, Matter, and Miracles by Bruce H. Lipton, PhD. This book doesn't even look like it was touched or read. Like, there's not even a bend in the spine, right? It's beautiful, in beautiful condition. I got it because it was very cheap, but it's very like scientific, and I'm not normally like a scientific type of reader. I don't really enjoy it. So I'm going to give it a try. And any books that I don't resonate with, I just drop them off in, like, we have these neighborhood libraries. People put books at like in little mailboxes at the end of their driveway, and they're just like free libraries. So when you're walking, you can browse books. And so I always bring the books that I don't want to the neighborhood libraries because maybe there's someone else out there that will resonate with the info. Next book is called Numerology Asks, Who Do You Think You Are Anyway? By Karen David. All right, so I'm going to read you a little excerpt from this. I already know that my life path number is 7. So this is talking about life path and sex. And it says number 7, birth path. It says you believe that sex itself is not as important as intellectual rapport with your lover. You figure that you can get it anywhere, sex that is, but having true mental compatibility is a rarity, so you search for that perfection. I feel so seen. Oh my gosh. Consequently, you can be physically turned on to someone who demonstrates keen awareness and know-how. I need a smart cookie like me. I'm not saying smart, I'm just like emotionally intelligent, aware, because I've done so much work to heal myself that I could never date someone who hasn't also done similar self-work. The next book. This is called Dear Super Lady of Sex. How women can discover and deal with men's hidden desires, secret fears, and number 1 sex need. And I'm not going to read anything because it's a little X-rated for YouTube. So we're gonna keep it PG and just do some tapping on this one. The next book is this one, and it's called The Holy Book of Women's Mysteries. Feminist witchcraft, goddess rituals, spellcasting, and other womanly arts. This book was also $28, and I got it for so cheap. I refuse to buy anything like at Chapters now. I'm just like, I'm always on the hunt for used books, always. I'm going to read you a beautiful excerpt from this book. This chapter that I'm going to read is the start of a chapter. It's about the Dianic tradition and the rites of life. And it starts by talking about the Dianic Genesis. So the Dianic's version of Genesis, of how the world came to be. And I thought it was a really cool theory, so I wanted to share it with you. In the beginning, there was unknowable silence. She had an unknowable name which echoed through the universe. The power of this name, that no one shall utter, filled the universe with action. Silence broke into its components, lights and shadows. From these lights, action made form, and from the shadows, formlessness. Visible and invisible, she created a blend of the two we know today as nature. In this blend of form and formlessness, lights and shadows, visible and invisible, she created all the creatures, making infinite variations of herself as the birthing force and the different form of her, where she is not so clearly visible, the birthed-in form. She intermingled with herself as she was never divided, and created our solar system, our mother planet, and all the creatures upon it. Among the creatures she ordained, all species will know her, either through instinct or through search, but all she created will periodically return to her holiness and then again take form inside her. And ever since, the world has had a blend of invisible forms, female and male, and a blend of invisible forms, self-love and self-hate. The divine mixing of these creates reality. For her essence is present in all, but her forms do not conform to temporary social orders. She is the circle of rebirth. Thus we celebrate the moment in our lives as an honor to her, she whose genesis is still happening, she who has not yet returned to any comfortable heaven to watch over us or forget us. She who still creates all reality daily, she who is visible and invisible in nature, and she whose name is secret, she who rules the universe, the force of life and death, and all that is in between. She is all. I thought that was so beautiful. Next book is, this one is called Soul Retrieval, Mending the Fragmented Self by Sandra Ingerman. So this is about how shamans perform soul retrieval for healing emotional and physical illness, which I thought was really cool. I really do believe I was a shaman in a past life. I haven't dove too much into that, but I get feelings about it, and I do feel called to read content about stuff like that. Next book is called Past Lives, Present Miracles by Denise Lynn. This is about discovering your past lives. Oh, there we go. Now I can dive into that past life where I was a shaman. But it talks about like all the things that you like in this life You like them for a reason. And it's all like characteristics of your soul, essentially, or of past lives that you've lived. So this one says it's about animals and pets. It says, do you feel a kinship with certain kinds of animals? When you're around these beings, do you feel that you're able to communicate with them? This type of experience may be related to a past life in which you had extensive contact with a particular kind of animal. Perhaps you were a horse trainer or farmer, or maybe at some point your only friend was a pet. The emotional solace provided by that relationship might have been the one thing that kept you going through an incredibly difficult situation. To the ancient Egyptians, cats represented gods. Relics of that time are filled with regal pictures of cats acting out the civilization's most important myths. In fact, cats were so honored that many of them were embalmed along with their owners when they died. If you've had a lifelong affinity for cats to the point of nearly worshiping them, you might have had a life in ancient Egypt. See? So cool. Perfect condition. Even if they weren't in perfect condition, I would still buy them, but it's just like a bonus that they are. Next book is called The Art of Intimacy by Thomas Patrick Malone, MD. Oh, and Patrick Thomas Malone, MD. Well, that was a mind fuck. I was like, that's the same name, but it's Thomas Patrick and Patrick Thomas. See what they did there? Probably son and father, I'm assuming. The Art of Intimacy. Something that I'm really intrigued in learning about. This book is called The Reenchantment of Everyday Life by Thomas More. And the excerpt that I will read you after my sip is about the enchanted child. It says, a child lives in an enchanted world that is always alive and in dialogue. I'll be writing in my studio and hear my daughter in the next room talking and singing to her large rabbit doll as she wraps a diaper around his soft velvet thighs. To her, the entire past is yesterday. Yesterday I went to New York and stayed at a hotel, she will say, referring to a trip the family took months ago. Is this simply a cute childhood animism and a failure to know how time works, how to read a calendar or a clock? Or could it be a valid way of being in the world, the way of enchantment? Could we enter into relationship with the so-called inanimate world? And could we explore alternatives to a world governed by the clock and calendar? Yes, we can. Why not imagine the child world as perfectly valid and complete? Not something we grow out of or develop from, but one that we fall out of and forget. Could it be that in becoming adults, we are educated away from the soul that is so vividly present in childhood? In some societies, adults don't seem to be nearly so different from children or to have forgotten the values of childhood. They may paint their faces the way children do and ritualize all of life in dance, song, story, and many forms of play. So true. We're getting there. Okay, we have this book up next. It is called Ascendant Thought. It is a new Seth book by John and Dottie McAuliffe. Seth is another being, I believe, that has channeled material. Okay, so this excerpt from Seth says, now, let's say a being put out a thought for a new car. A particularly affirmative thought is released. Right afterward, the thought comes in, oh, this can't really happen. Woe is the being, for he has disconnected the first thought. Thoughts put forth with no belief or faith behind them are inconsequential and are soon disconnected. Then you might ask, where is my new car? I put in the order for it. Why hasn't it arrived? Sadly, this is what takes place on a common basis. Now, if you actually concentrated on it hard enough, you could actually create a traffic jam right in front of your house. Wouldn't that be fun? Think of what else this applies to. If one saw an event occur, let us say a plane ride, time after time with no mishaps, expectation would probably result. Beings would start thinking that sooner or later something would happen to this plane or on this plane. As each event passes, the probable expectation of a mishap increases. And with the increasing emotional charge, a probable event comes to pass. Now, the universe has no judgment concerning such events. It merely seeks to complete the energy generated, whether it be that you would regard as on a positive or a negative scale. Interesting. Next book is called Law of Attraction by Michael Losier. The Science of Attracting More of What You Want and Less of What You Don't. And because I'm building a conscious mind program, I thought this would be a good way to get some ideas, just to do it for research, try out some stuff myself. So yeah, cool little find. And it says on the back, you're already experiencing the law of attraction. And we totally are. Even if you don't believe it. Next book is The Green Pharmacy Guide to Healing Foods. Proven Natural Remedies to Treat and Prevent More Than 80 Common Health Concerns by James A. Duke. It goes into like skin problems. Wow. It's got so much good information. And good tapping sounds. Next one, I have this. It is called Shamanic Experience, a Practical Guide to Psychic Powers by Kenneth Meadows. Oh, it says includes CD of shamanic drumming. The CD is not there, but I bought it like that, so it's okay. All right. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the shamanic journey. Shamanic journey is a technique of experiencing dimensions of inner space that lie beyond the 5 physical senses. It enables the awareness to function at levels of perception that are different from ordinary physical reality. So a shamanic journey might be more accurately regarded as a change of frequencies, rather than the traversing of spatial distance, in which the consciousness is able to experience non-ordinary realities. It is an experience through which personal empowerment can be obtained, new insight and knowledge gained, and help received in the practical problems of everyday living. Very cool. This video is going to be really long, so I won't read more than that. I'm just trying to get through like these last 7 books. Okay, we have this one, Astrology for the Light Side of the Future, which is just like astrology with a lighthearted twist by Kim Rogers Gallagher. We have this one, which is The Healer's Manual, A Beginner's Guide to Energy Therapies by Ted Andrews. I love Ted Andrews. The first book I read from him was the one about spirit animals. I forget what it's called, but it's a big book on spirit animals. But he talks about augury, or just the ability to read omens in science, essentially, which is what I do. And so I'm convinced, I definitely know on some level that I have been training in this craft for many lifetimes. So I was definitely an augur in a past life. And I even get signs about augurs. Like ever since I discovered that, I keep seeing the word augur, and it's not a word that you see a lot. Very excited to dig into this. Okay, we have a book called Healing by the Spirit. This is by Ivan Cook, who is a healer. And the blurb that I'm going to read you is just a quote. It's a quote that starts this chapter, and the chapter is called Never Grow Old. So, the quote: "How can man live as God created him to live without conscious contact with the part of him that is spirit with his celestial self? Such loss of contact, brethren, is the reason why you grow old, the reason why the body ages, decays, and eventually passes away, is that people fail to keep their contact with the spiritual life, with their spiritual self." And that is by White Eagle. And that's the author's name, White Eagle. But yeah, that's a great quote. Next one is called Animal Talk, Interspecies Telepathic Communication by Penelope Smith. I'm going to read you a little blurb. It's just a tiny little book. So this one is talking about how to use your imagination. The word imagine comes from imago, an image or likeness, and means to make a mental image of, form an idea or notion of, or conceive in the mind. Imagination is commonly regarded as a fanciful thing, creating things that are not real or present in the physical realm. It is often derided as in, it's just your imagination. Without the ability to imagine, a person would not be able to proceed with a plan of action or perceive others' communications. If you can't imagine or create a mental image of something, you often can't see or hear or sense it in other ways. It literally may not exist for you, as in the phrase, "I just can't imagine that." Obviously, if you can't imagine receiving communication from an animal or anyone, you won't be able to receive it. Receiving mental images and thoughts requires the ability to create them for yourself and perceive that they exist. Amen to that. I've got 4 books left. We're in the home stretch, guys. All right, this one is called Earthly Cycles, Reincarnation, Karma, and Consciousness by Ramon Stevens. Ramon. And I'm going to read you. Each person stands as a unique strand of consciousness, sparked to life by a higher self, juggling its numerous incarnational offshoots. Each higher self, in turn, is a fragment of a greater family of consciousness devoted to one of the 7 major aspects of human society. Each family of consciousness is spun out of the host human consciousness, which in turn is a fragment of still greater bodies of consciousness. The chain of consciousness ascends through ever more complex links until it reaches the ultimate source of creation, all that is. Got this big one. It's like a textbook. It says, Integrating Your Wholeness, a reference guide to assist you in merging with your internal physician by Reverend Marcy Foley. Oh, look at this picture on the back. It's like a turtle. Slow and steady. All about energy work, energy therapy, healing, all that good stuff. Can't wait to dig into this. Can't wait to dig into all these books. I'll get through them eventually. We have Power Planets, a manual for human empowerment. Oh, by Luisa de la Lama. And I'm going to read you about a little blurb about Jupiter, the planet of Jupiter, and the archetype of Jupiter. Jupiter's energy is happy, abundant, fertilizing, expansive, and wise. His power allows a high, broad perspective on life, showing us our special place in the cosmic scheme. We see where we want to go and what steps need to be taken to get there successfully. With Jupiter's help, we see that the universe is already infinitely abundant, that the essence of most things and qualities we desire are already within our grasp. We must make only the correct mental shift to recognize them and understand that we deserve them. Very true. By this, Jupiter teaches us a lesson in loving ourselves. Our self-love is the channel through which the universe provides us with what we long for. If we don't love ourselves enough to grant us what we want when the opportunity arises, then nobody else will. Thank you if you watched this long. You're a real MVP. I appreciate you and your support. This one is about the rising sign, which is your astrological mask, a guide to that part of yourself that you allow others to see, by Jean Avery. And my rising sign is Aries. So I'm going to read you about Aries. As the first thrust of spring brings life in the form of flowers bursting through the hard, cold crust of earth, so does the first sign of the zodiac bring vibrancy to the material world around him. His bursting forth may not be as gentle as that of the plants, yet the general impression he creates is that of breaking up old patterns in order to produce rebirth and new beauty. My life in a nutshell. Okay. The ruler of Aries is Mars. The person with this ascendant expresses himself with the forcefulness of that aggressive warlike planet, yet he also shows a romantic side that belies the fighting side of, I'm going to say her personality, because I'm a girl reading this. Mars is the planet of action. It is sexual energy and high creative energy at the same time. It indicates impatience and frustration, competitive spirit and temper, yet without Mars energy, new fields would never be conquered. It is symbolic of creation itself. Aries is a fire sign, denoting high enthusiasm and vitality. It is also a cardinal sign, showing sensitivity and an open quality. Mars wants to go forward without thought of the risks involved. It is the planet of impulse. It is volatile and stimulating. If we consider that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, we see the similarity in the Aries personality, who always wants to be first. The individual with this ascendant is therefore a natural pioneer, as her daring and courage easily take her into uncharted territory. She is like the penetrating wedge paving the way for the rest of the human race. She fights the battles, breaks the ice, and makes life easier for others who come behind. She is the explorer. I feel so seen again. So I hope you have a lovely night. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching this video. I'll see you again in my next one. Love and light.